Welcome to my channel and another restoration of a photographic image. This is of James, Ellen, and Willie White this time. It was originally an ambrotype, and I would date it to somewhere around 1856 based on the age of Willie. So let's bring up the image, the original image. Actually, this is reversed. It was just the opposite when I downloaded it. But you can see that there are some real problems with this image. It's discolored. Somehow the colors have run. The image is squished to here a little bit. It's been stretched. There's an enormous scratch across the image, and it is completely obscuring Ellen White's face. So we're going to have to deal with that. The discoloration here on the corner on her hand as she's holding this book doesn't look good. There's some cracks. There's lots and lots of little specks all over the place. And it's very faint. The image was very faint. So perhaps the exposure was not very good. So you can see even James's face. And then little Willie must have turned his head. So we have a double image on there. So what are we going to do to fix this? Well, let us start by working on Ellen White's face. Here we've used an image that came from a later picture of her, and we used some age enhancement software that matches the shape of her face for this time of her life. Also, we lightened it up because it was very dark in the background. And I aligned her eyes, nose, and mouth so that we have an approximation of where her facial features would be. So that's the first thing we did. It's not perfect, but it gets us started. Haven't dealt with her hand. That's not something we did yet. Okay, now we have worked on her hand and the coloration of over here, and I've kind of made the coloring a little bit better. Took out the big scratch across her face and across the image. So it's starting to look a little more decent. Then I used a coloration that would just make it a little bit more uniform. Instead of having greens and browns here and there, it's more of a brownish tone, a sepia tone, we might say. Willie's still very blurry. James is still faint. Ellen White's nose is not quite right. Neither is her hand. And there's some discoloration here. All right. Now we've started to bring in some features here. We filled in Ellen White's features better. Her nose is still not perfect, but much better. James's face is borrowed from another daguerreotype from around 1857. And that is a major improvement. And we're going to start to work on Willie's face as well. Okay, now we've got some clarity, although Willie's eyes are not very sharp. James looks a lot better. Ellen looks a lot better. And now we have improved all of their faces. You can see the images improve for Willie, Ellen, and James. All of them look a little bit more natural. And then I've colored this in a little bit, darkened it, brought in some color for their faces, their hands, their face. It's getting so much better. And then I send it back to an AI program to see what we could do to enhance it a little bit. And now they have much sharper features. How about that? And I did some careful editing on the hand so that it looks a lot better. Not sure about Willie's face, whether he has China eyes, but that's the closest we could get. And that's what the AI figured out from what it could recognize. Now, you might want to see what this looked like before. We'll do a before and after. You see how all the coloring is different, scratch is terrible. And then with all of the changes, that's what we get. Pretty nice, huh? I like that. It looks a little bit like a painting and not exactly like a photograph, but it is so much more authentic. And this is a time we could tell a little story about little Willie. Willie liked to play in the bubbles in the soap bucket. And one day, as they were preparing for a big meeting in Battle Creek, Ellen White left her little boy with a caregiver, and she turned her back for just 1 second and came in and found that little Willie had gone face up, face down into the bucket, and he was not breathing. And the caregiver rushed out screaming, that he wasn't breathing. And Ellen came, and she started taking his little body and cut the clothes off of him and started rolling him on the ground. And neighbors came around, and some said, take that little boy away from that girl, that lady. That's a dead baby. And she would not take no for an answer. She continued until finally there was a little sputter, and he bubbled up some of the soap that he had taken down into his lungs, and he started to breathe again. And this is little Willie, who became Ellen White's closest work companion and helper after James passed away in 1881, and Willie was her helper. So that was a major change. If it hadn't been for that persistence of a mother who loved her child, she wouldn't have had him. Later on, she would have lost the child in a terrible accident. Well, that's what we have for now. So, thanks for watching.